Bitcoin is getting ready to explode above 30,000. The bulls are in full force. Let's take a look. We also have big data coming out this week that is concerning. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Again, not financial advice, just me doing what I do with my money. Now let's take a look at what we got going on with Bitcoin as we are consolidating here, just shy of 30K, right in the degenerate trend, perfectly to the upside. Now just getting closer and closer to breaking out above this pivot here at about 29,123, and also the highs here at about 28,911. If we break out and get a confirmed close above these levels, we're certainly going to 30,000, potentially upwards of 32K, retesting this pivot at the highs up around here about 32K. Is that going to happen? We have a little bit of a time constraint and a potential catalyst that could push us that a little bit of a buy the rumor, sell the news event, as we have CPI numbers coming out for my time here in Bali at 8:30 p.m. Wednesday night. CPI numbers are coming out, and then Thursday morning at 2 a.m. for me, which I'll be sleeping, which sucks because typically going to be some big movements that we see as the FOMC meeting goes on, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'll be fucking snoozing, which sucks. This is huge data. And also you have to factor in, guys, that typically when we've seen big runs into CPI and the FOMC meeting data, that's typically been the top or the bottom of that rally. As the FOMC and CPI numbers come out, that could be the buy the rumor, push up to 30K, sell the news, and we dump back down, of which right now I am long on Bitcoin right around 27.9 is where I'm long on BTC, right around here. And I'm looking for the breakout above this level and a spike to the upside up to 30,000 plus, somewhere in this range of this box here above the high pivot right here, as well as the high of about 31.8 to 32,000. But I'm going to be locking in gains every step of the way in a grid. And on top of that, I'm also adding to my short every step of the way. Now, if we start breaking above this level here at about 31.8 to 32,000, 32.3, and we start getting some confirmed closes and sustained price up there, I will accept my failure on the short side and stop out because I don't know what's going to happen. We could potentially come all the way up to 40K or so if we start retesting into these pivots at about 37.5. Also the highs here about 33.9. So that's the situation, but I'm looking for a push and a rally into the CPI numbers, buy the rumor, sell the news event, where I lock in my gains and my longs, and then we start adding to our shorts and we see a downside push back down to about 25K, obviously the pivot here, and then potentially all the way back down to the ascending trend, which is also currently about 22, which is also in line in confluence at these levels here as well from these previous high pivots, about 22.5 and 21.5, also the lows here at about 19. So a lot of areas to be locking in gains. Obviously, I don't hold for one entry and one exit. I lock in gains every step of the way. I love to trade in grids. It just ensures profits for me the entire time, and then I can move my stop up or down in the direction of the trade and continually ensure that I'm making money, and that's how I like to manage risk. I don't know what's going to happen as of right now. Could just consolidate in this level up until CPI and we never break out, and all of a sudden the CPI numbers come out, they're worse than expected. The FOMC says some things that people don't like to hear. We all of a sudden just fucking dump to the downside, which would not be ideal because then I'll stop out of my long position, and as of right now I don't have a heavy short position. I'm waiting for a spike to the upside to build my heavy short position. Ideally, this consolidation has been forming for a long time, and I think we're going to break out to the upside. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, which is why I have stops in place to protect myself. So that's the current situation on Bitcoin. I'm also long Ethereum as of right now. We got long in Ethereum. On this initial breakout, I locked in about 25% of my gains on the spike to the upside, and now I'm looking for a potential consolidation, ride the degenerate trend, bounce off this level, and then push us back up to break out here and start tapping into 2K, of which I will also be adding to my shorts, simultaneously locking in my long gains in this kind of box range here as we spike into 2K. That would be the ideal situation. Same thing, bounce off the support, buy the rumor, go into 2K resistance, sell the news on CPI and FOMC, and we start pulling back potentially down to 1400 or so, retesting these levels, potentially also retesting the ascending trend down to about 1400, which would also be confluence these pivots down here. So that would be the short situation for Ethereum right now. We also have to consider what's going on with the US dollar as we're now back still at support. Gold is up near resistance up at 2K, of which I do think it's going to consolidate. Eventually, I would love to buy the dip between 1890 also the way down to 1800. That would be a prime dip buying opportunity for me, of which I do think gold is eventually going to break out to the upside. Worst case scenario, it comes all the way back down and retests the ascending support here, which is all the way down about 1700, 1750 or so. But I would, love to be buying gold anywhere in that whole entire range. I think this whole box right here. That's a buy for me on gold for the eventual breakout to all-time highs on gold, because right now it's looking pretty good. Now, if we look at what's going on with the S&P 500, what's going to happen with stocks this week? What am I doing? Am I long? Am I short? Brief interruption here, guys. Did you know that 75% of traders have accounts under $25,000? This creates a huge problem because even if you double that account in a year, which is almost impossible, you're still only making $25,000. Introducing Hydra funding, where you can potentially get access up to $500,000 in capital. All you have to do, guys, is sign up for a challenge account, which is going to give you potentially access up to $500,000. And if you earn a 10% profit in this demo account without going into a 5% loss overall or a 4% loss in a day, you will then pass their evaluation phase and, yes, get access to an account with the selected size account. And now, instead of trying to double a $10,000 account, you could potentially earn only 10% on a $100,000 account to earn the same level of profits. And the benefits of this are huge. Rather than risking your entire $10,000 on one account, you can use just $1,000 to potentially get access to $100,000 in capital. You can trade crypto, forex, stocks, CFTs, gold, oil, everything under the sun, all on MT4 and MT5. If you're interested, if you have an account under $25,000, like 75% of traders out there, you're not going to make any money with that account because it's too small. Get access to pro level funding and pro level capital with Hydra funding. Link's going to be below. And I'll tell you right now, I am short on the S&P 500. As we're coming into this big confluence zone, we have a lot of resistance here on this descending trend line, here on this descending trend line, as well as this pivot here. Everywhere in this box, I believe, is a good area to be adding into your shorts. As you can see, it's also super greedy here on the fear and greed index. We're also coming back into a level here of overbought territory on the degenerate shift. So I'm short currently on the US 30, looking for a pullback to retest this level of where I will probably lock in some gains. Potentially we see another bounce here before eventual breakdown and then retest these levels back down here about 3,500, potentially even lower. If we look at the NASDAQ here, guys, again, super overbought, super greedy on the fear and greed index. We also getting a crossover here on degenerate shift. I'm also short the NASDAQ 100. This is basically being led by just a few stocks. We got Meta ripping to the upside, of which is looking like a potential short coming up. We got Nvidia pumping to the upside. I got short up here on Nvidia. I'll continually add my short if we spike. I'm also short on Apple. Apple is getting a huge spike to the upside, of which we're now retesting all these different trends. The descending trend zone, descending trend, retested it, gap down. We got a big spike on the NASDAQ and a lot of these plays, especially Meta and Apple, spiking to the upside, but I do believe we're going to see a push to the downside on Apple. We can also see a sell signal confirming on degenerate shift. Double sell signal on fear and greed here for the degenerate trading suite, which is coming soon. So I definitely think we're going to be seeing a shift over on the Apple, Nvidia, Meta plays. I'm not short Meta as of right now. But we also have to, again, factor in, guys, that we have the CPI coming out, and FOMC could be the buy the rumor, sell the news event, as we've seen a massive push on stocks to the upside into the CPI numbers, where we could see a spike to the upside on CPI numbers, fake everyone out, and then a big trap, and then push everything to the downside. I'm also short US 30, super greedy on the fear and greed index, not super overbought here on degenerate shift, but I am building that short position as well. I'm also building my short position on the UK 100, even though we saw a big spike to the upside. We are getting greedy. We have not gotten a confirmed sell signal on fear and greed, but if we push into CPI and we do see a sell-off on US stocks, UK 100 is certainly going to see a big dump to the downside. Now, next, guys, let's look at the top altcoins that are setting up in bullish formations that you could be buying right now, and we might see a spike on these before we see a sell-off. S-Fund is a consolidation pattern that's forming up a revival pattern right now. The problem with S-Fund is that the liquidity is a little bit low, but we do have a nice looking revival pattern pre-breakout. If we start consolidating in this zone and break out above these levels, the next previous high pivot would be a target right around a 177 on S-Fund, which would be about a 45% rally if this does get a confirmed breakout, but we don't have much time for this to have a lot of legs if we do see a sell-off on CPI. RMRK, also another potential mini revival pattern pre-breakout that's forming up right now. Breakout over 242, 243 could send this thing up nicely, potentially retest the previous resistance levels around here, about 15% upwards of 28% rally. RLC Another one that's forming up here, a big decline after, I believe this might be a recent IPO on Bybit, but we're consolidating in this formation. If we start breaking out above the highs here, about 172, we could see a nice spike to the upside, potentially coming back up to about 190 on RLC of about 15%. If we start breaking down below the lows of all these wicks here, about 163, that could be the indication and get a confirmed close below these lows that we're heading actually lower, and it's no longer a valid breakout pattern in play. Blur, I love the setup here on Blur as of right now. It's a nice bullish revival pattern setup pre-breakout. I'm currently long Blur. I've been buying and adding on the dip here for Blur. We have a nice setup. We have the push here, dip into support, push into that same exact resistance, dip into the ascending support. So support, support, now triple support here, which would now indicate a potential bounce. If we do see a breakout in Bitcoin and Ethereum, I believe we could potentially bounce, retest these levels about 67. If we break out above 67 to this 74 level right here, I think we're pushing all the way back up into this resistance level about 88 cents, which from the current price right now, that could be a potential 57, 60% rally. This is all dependent on CPI numbers, but if we start breaking down below this ascending trend line, that would be invalidating this pattern, and it's time to stop out of this position. Mask, another one that's also forming up in a longer term breakout level, coming down into the pivot support about $5 per coin. Right now, looking pretty solid, but if we flag and break out above this bullish flag right now, that could be the indication that we're going to start heading back towards this high about 650, and a breakout above this level could send us as high as potentially $8.95, which would be about a 63% rally for Mask. Again, all dependent if the market sees a continuation and CPI numbers don't destroy the market. ARB is another one that's got a lot of hype around it recently. As of late, I actually bought the dip on ARB, I believe about 116 or so. And if we look at what's going on right now with ARB on the intraday scale, we can see that this is now, in fact, breaking out above this recent consolidation pattern as of right now. So we do have a short-term near buy signal as of right now at about 117, still holding up the price action right now. But if it starts breaking down below these lows again, about 112 to 114, also the first signal would be a breakdown below 114. It could start pushing back down and actually break down to new lows, which would not be a good thing for ARB. But as of right now, we have a short-term buy signal of which I do believe we could come back up and retest the 139 pivot. And if we break out above 139, which is now a 17% away, I do think we could potentially go all the way up of $2 per coin on ARB, which is 70% rally from here. Again, we don't have much time. CPI numbers are coming out in a few days, of which I do think I'm just looking for a short-term rally, so I'll be selling all spikes on all these positions. But anyways, guys, that's the only things that I'm looking at right now. CPI numbers are out. FOMC numbers are coming out as well. Also, Friday, U.S. retail sales, all things we have to consider and factor in. Be careful out there. Always manage risk. Always be prepared for worst case scenario. Fuck your fantasy about what's going to happen when you win. I don't think about what's going to happen when I win. I think about what's going to happen if things go my way and how do I protect myself so I can wake up tomorrow with still a lot of money in my account and continually to strive forward to make money in the long run. This is a get rich slow game. Always remember that. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.